Welcome. In this lesson we're going to look at the pencil and brush tools. So very similar to the last lesson where we're just going to show you the pencil and brush tools, and then I'm going to get you to do a simple task of drawing a fish, and then we're going to export it as a PNG or a JPEG file ready to send off to our friends. So let's get started. So we're going to start Adobe Animate. So come down to the Windows icon at the bottom, go down to Adobe Animate and open it. From this point here, go to HTML5 canvas and click on that so your canvas is ready to go. Now we're going to just do a quick save. So we're going to File, and then we're going to go down to the Save button and press Save. We're going to call this Fish and make sure it's the save type as Adobe Animate Document .fla and press Save. Now when we go to our actual file, which yours should be in your computing documents folder, you should have a fish one and you should have a bridge one. So we are good to go. Now we've got this saved. The picture that we're going to be drawing today is this fish. Now you're not allowed to use the techniques from last lesson, which was the line. You're going to only use the brush tools this lesson and the free transform tool. And we're going to try and recreate this. I'd also like you to put some kind of fill on this fish as well, and I'll show you how to do that. So here we go then. Our tools that we're going to be using then are the pencil tool, the paintbrush tool, and the brush tool. They're all very slightly different. We're also going to look at the free transform tool. So when you click on one, you also have these properties down here, and you also have the properties over here. So the properties over here are the same as last lesson, where you can change the color, you can change the stroke size, and I'll keep it small for a second. You can change the way the stroke looks, and you can change the width. You can also change the capping. So you've got all that at your disposal, and when you press the black arrow tool after you draw it, you can change the line as it goes. So let's just draw our first line. And we'll just draw a little squiggly one. Now take note for how squiggly it looks, because when I let go, it's going to get a lot straighter. Or not, because I've got this one selected. So let me just do it one more time. And we're just going to draw this line. And what this is called is smoothing. And the brush tools all have these smoothing options. And you can see how much smoother that got. So look how jagged that is, and then when I let go it smooths it all out really nice. And that's this button down here, pencil mode, and all of them have this, and they all work slightly different. So the brush has a whole bunch more which is slightly different. Now if we look at this, you'll notice that the pencil tool is a line tool. You'll notice that the paintbrush tool is also a line tool, but when you click on this brush tool here, you'll notice that it's a fill tool. So when we come to fill our fish, this is the tool you're going to want to use. So we're going to use a combination of these particular ones. So let's click the black arrow tool and let's just delete this. Now let's draw a first line. So let's do it again. I'll get you guys to do this in a second, and then I want you to change the smoothing option. So let's try and straighten. So here we go. And look how much straighten. And if you go like this, and you can draw a perfect square, even though your one was a bit rubbish. And if I do a circle, it should change that as well to a square. You can also go to ink, which has very little smoothing. You are able to change the smoothing on some of these. You can't do it on the brush tool, on the pencil tool, but you can do it on the paintbrush tool. So if you want to change the way this smoothing works, you can change it here using the smoothing. So if you want 100% smoothing on this paintbrush tool, you can do that here. And it kind of like smooths everything out. It's really nice. And so on. It's up to you how you want that, or you can actually just use the buttons where you kind of change it from smooth to straighten, and you can do it that way. Okay. Or ink. So your first task then is to use those two tools and an experiment, just drawing some basic lines, changing the properties. So our next one, I'm just going to delete these top ones, and I'm going to show you the brush tool and how this differs. Now once you click on the brush tool, you have these extra ones here. So you have brush modes. You also can change the brush size. So normally it's set to this one, which is a bit of a weird one. So I always change the brush size to this one here. You can also change the way it looks as well. So you might not want the circle, you might want a different one. Now your brush mode will normally be this one here. So if you paint through a box, it kind of just goes and it lays it on top. If you do the next one, so paint fill, this allows you to, actually it's very similar, but it goes behind it a little bit. So you can see where it pops it behind. You also have this paint behind, which is very similar. You have paint selection, which is kind of works and kind of it's not always great, but the one I use quite a bit, and the one you're going to want to use for your fish, is this paint inside. So if you click inside first and then you start drawing away, and as long as the shape is a full shape, it will only populate what's inside. So as you can see, that's a really powerful tool. So say for instance you wanted to maybe make half and half, for instance. So you wanted to, right, let's do this bit green over this side here, and this one isn't a full shape unfortunately, and then maybe we'll change the color to a blue, so we'll have this other side as a blue shape, and it gives you this kind of nice thing that you can do there. So pause the video, have a little experiment with that, and just see how you get on with just changing those properties from down here, how you change the properties over here. Okay, now let's get on to drawing our fish. So the fish that we're going to be drawing is this one. I've attached a copy of this so you can reference it, and you're just going to try and get it as close as you want. You can customize it. You don't have to draw this exact fish. I would like you to only use the brush and the pencil tools, these three, not the line tools or not any of the shape tools for this. And I want you to experiment and try and get the best results. If you want to draw a shark or some other kind of fish, that's also fine. And then I want you to try and get a fill. So one thing you do need to know is the brush tools do work very, very similar to the actual line tools, where once you've drawn a line, you can edit it as well. So if I draw a better line than that, let's try and draw this fin first. So that's an okay fin, it's not too bad. Now I did have the ink on, so I do want to make it smooth this time. Let me just do that one more time. So we've just changed it to smooth, and now let's draw the fin again. Going to be worse this time. There you go, it's smoothed it out. Now if you come to the arrow tool and you select it, or not select it in fact, and you just hover over, you'll notice that you can move this quite a bit, and you can actually change the way the curve is represented, and you have a lot of flexibility on this. The other thing you can do with this is, say for instance in the wrong place, you can select it first, just pressing the black arrow tool and then selecting like that, and then you come down to this free transform tool, and the free transform tool puts this box around it, and with the box around it you can click and you can move the actual line to wherever you want. You can stretch it, you can make it thinner, you can also rotate it. So if you hover over one of the edges, you can also rotate it, which is nice. And you also have this thing in the middle, which you're probably not going to need right now, but it's called an anchor point. And you can drag the anchor point, and when you rotate then, it changes the way the anchor point would look. So for instance, if you wanted two of these, if I press Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and you wanted two of these to be exactly the same size, oops, undo that, but you just wanted it to be flipped, for instance, you could use the anchor point just to flip that. When you're moving it around, oops, let's check that again. When you're moving it around, you kind of get this kind of perfect flip, which is quite nice. So pause the video, have a little practice with the free transform tool, have a little practice at drawing some of these shapes.